Welcome to Western Door Paranormal Studies. My name is Tony Burtis, your host, and this is the historic Ft.Stamwix in Rome, New York. In its early history, Rome, New York was known as Ft.Stamwix. Ft.Stamwix was very important to American history. It played an important part in the French and Indian War, and during the American Revolution, it was known as the fort that never surrendered. The history of its fort in its earliest days was its link to a portage that linked the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes. The portage was an Indian portage called Dio Wan Sta, meaning place where canoes are carried across one stream to the other. The English called it the Oneida Carry Place. Ft.Stamwix was erected by the British to protect the portage during the French and Indian War. It was named after its builder, Brigadier General John Stanwix. During the American Revolution, the fort was the primary defensive point for the Continental Army in the Mohawk Valley. It was occupied in the summer of 1776 by the 3rd New Jersey Regiment, and to give the fort a more American name, it was renamed Fort Schuyler after General Philip Schuyler. Due to confusion created by the fact that there was multiple forts named Fort Schuyler, the name defeated back to Ft.Stamwix. Eventually, American Colonel Peter Gansevoort took command of the fort. Rumors persisted of a British invasion of the Mohawk Valley by British General Barry St. Leger. Ft.Stamwix was being defended with half the force that General Leger had. The British forces were made up of Hessian troops, Canadian troops, 800 British regulars, Mohawk Valley loyalists, and 700 to 1,000 British Allied Native Americans. The American forces in the fort consisted of the 3rd New York Regiment and 2 detachments of Massachusetts troops. In early August of 1777, the siege of Ft.Stamwix began. According to folklore, this was the first time the American flag was flown in battle. The siege was ended by the appearance of a force led by Benedict Arnold. The size of the force was exaggerated when a British prisoner, in exchange for his own life, went to Loyalist Indian camps telling them the force was bigger than it really was. This caused the Loyalist natives to desert and the forces of St. Leger to lift the siege and retreat. The fort was abandoned in 1781. However, it was used in 1784 for the signing of the Treaty of Ft.Stamwix between the Americans and the Iroquois. In 1848, the fortifications were dismantled. In 1935, the fort was reconstructed and designated as a national monument. Ft.Stamwix has a lot of claims of paranormal activity that occur at both day and night. Doorknobs turn and doors open and close by themselves. Lights and alarm systems go on and off by themselves. Fife and drum music is reported on the parade grounds. Apparitions of both American and British soldiers are reported. A one-legged man is seen in the living quarters. Footsteps and the sounds of sweeping and a woman with a crying child are also. Now, the fort behind me is actually a reconstruction of the original fort that was sitting on this premises. Now, make no mistake, this is the actual location of Ft.Stamwix. Of course, it deteriorated over the course of time, so they actually built the reconstructed structure that you actually see behind me. Nonetheless, there still are reports of paranormal activity that come from inside the fort and around the grounds. Now, we've brought our tools and our equipment out here, and what we're going to try and do is not only document this wonderful historical landmark, but we're going to see if we can actually document some of the paranormal claims that are associated with it. For the purpose of this ghost hunt, seeing that once again it's largely being conducted in the daytime, seeing that the claims of paranormal activity actually are day or night, I'm using my regular ghost meter. Now this is important because not only does it have a audio alarm when I run into an EMF field, it also has lights that will go off. Now regular K2 meter in the daytime, even though I have one on me for this here, for maybe inside the buildings, when it goes off like that, there's no alarm. It's hard to see the lights. But this one here, you can actually hear the alarm and see the lights. That's significant if we run into an area that has high EMF, which could possibly mean contact with a spirit. My stance on orbs. Orbs are one of the more controversial anomalies in the paranormal field. More often than not, they're explainable as moisture, dust, maybe sun particles, things like that. Now, every once in a while, you do get a couple of orb pictures that you actually have to put out there, if nothing else, to get it out there and find out what everyone else might think about it. So, during my photography sessions at Ft.Stamwix, I did get a couple of pictures of orbs. Now, I'm not saying that these are paranormal. I'm just saying that they were kind of just too interesting to throw out. Now, it didn't take us long upon arriving into Ft.Stamwix to actually pick up on evidence. Now, the first bit of evidence we got was a VVP. Now, VVP stands for Video Voice Phenomenon. Basically, it's the same as an EVP, with the exception of, instead of getting a disembodied voice on a handheld audio device, you're picking it up on a video camera. Now, with a VVP, what makes it really cool is you're actually seeing your surroundings, and you can tell that there's really not anyone there, you know, actually making the voice in question. Now, this first VVP we got was right near the entrance, and it seems almost like a Native American tone to it. I can't make out what it says. It's almost like a rhythmic chant or a simple Native American dialogue. I'm not really exactly sure what it says, but there's no doubt of exactly what it is. Every once in a while you'll get a piece of evidence that actually comes across as fairly personal. Now this would actually happen here. Me and Felina were talking about something and she mentions my name. Now very shortly after that I get a voice that actually whispers my name. Now what's significant about this is there was no one really around us and it was just me and Felina. So there was no one else there that could have possibly done this without one of the other noticing it.
I can't think. Oh, you know, he's at Comic-Con.
Who?
Jose. He's just got a big smile. Kind of
He's at Comic-Con. I'm at the American Revolution. Now, Ft.Stamwix, it was an amazing road trip. It was a really, really cool fort to go see, take a step back in time and see and feel history, not only of the French and Indian War, but of the American Revolution. Sometimes we forget how close these battles actually are to home. Now, I enjoyed going through the fort, and paranormal-wise, we didn't have any personal experiences at the fort. However, I did get those VVPs and those orb pictures. So did I substantially prove that there are spirits at Ft.Stamwix? I say beyond a shadow of a doubt I did, because the two VVPs I got are Class A VVPs and they are proof that Ft.Stamwix definitely has intelligent haunts. It's also further proof, and it backs up the claims, that paranormal activity happens at Ft.Stamwix day and night. And as with what I've been doing lately, it just again reinforces that fact. Now I recommend going to Ft.Stamwix not just for the paranormal reasons, but it's a great place to be in touch with history, and it's a great road trip. Also, it's free to enter Ft.Stamwix. You can go in the visitor center, watch a short movie about the fort, and of course the gift shop has a lot of fine literature and things you can pick up so you can further read about the history of not only Ft.Stamwix, but of the history of our country.